I remember that was the first time that I realized that I'm a girl and they don't want to play with me.
Oh.
For example, they were shooting with this air rifle. They didn't want to do that with me, and I got so mad. And I went to tell that to my grandma, and she was like, "No, boys, you can't do that. You have to play with Katariina."
But you can't shoot with the rifle.
Okay, this was the 90s, so I don't think that this would be okay today. But she was like, "You have to teach Katariina as well."
Okay, everyone gets the right to shoot in this house.
Point to your grandma.
Exactly.
Oh, it's a sunny day today, and I don't want to stay with you under the sun. Oh, under the sun.
Hello everyone and welcome to the 5th episode of Radio Turku. Welcome to Turku, the Paris of the North without the Parisian. Today's theme is Women in Power in Turku. We have 3 guests, Faeze, Elina and Katariina. Faeze, could you introduce yourself shortly?
Hi, you all. I'm Faeze Rezai. I'm a doctoral researcher from Turku University, and I study comparative literature. And I'm 33 years old, and I'm Iranian. And it's been 3 years that I've been living in Finland, and almost 2 years that I've been living in Turku. And nice to see you all.
I have an extra question. What is the theme of your thesis?
It's an eco-critical reading of the genre of science fiction, mainly about the water and the representations of water in the Anglophone science fiction, basically.
Thank you. Elina.
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Elina, and I'm a PhD student in the University of Turku. I graduated from biology, and I'm doing my PhD about raccoon dogs in Finland.
Okay.
Yeah, and nice to be with you. Sounds like a really interesting company.
Can you define a raccoon dog? Because for me, I don't know this animal.
Raccoon dog is a canid, so a dog animal.
Okay.
And it looks like a raccoon, but this is an Asian species. It's a dog-looking, black and white, and it has like a mask on its face.
Okay, and why do you study it?
It's an invasive species in Finland.
Ah.
So we're studying how much damage it causes, does it cause damage, and what can we do to it
Okay.
to save the biodiversity in Finland.
I discovered something today. Good. And Katariina.
Super interesting, thank you. So hi, I'm Katariina Koistinen. I'm working as a sustainability specialist at Lumme Energia. I do have a background in university because I was a university researcher for almost 10 years. I finished my PhD 4 years ago, and I was working in the university as well, but then I shifted to the private sector. But yeah, I've been living here for 4 years, and yeah, that's about it. Very nice to be here.
And what's the goal of your new job then?
Well, I'm probably continuing to build their sustainability strategy and doing the sustainability reporting and various sustainability educational things in the company.
Do you have example of how to become more sustainable for a company?
Well, of course it depends on the company. But when you think about energy companies and the energy sector, that has had quite a turmoil in the field in the past 2 years. Maybe the biggest thing is how the company produces or buys its energy. So is it like fossil fuel or renewable energy or something in between, like nuclear energy?
Okay. But I just realized that you all come from educational field and that your work has a connection with nature and environment. I didn't know. For Faeze, I knew it was about water in general, but both of you, I'm surprised it's cool, the connection actually.
Yeah, quite a cool coincidence.
Yeah, it's funny actually. Now I asked you to bring the name of a woman that is connected somehow with Turku.
I can start. As I said, I have this certain love relationship to the academia and the research world. So I know that the first Finnish female professor was actually from Turku.
Ah.
Of course.
So she is Alma Söderholm, or was. And I think she was also Swedish-speaking Finnish. And I think Noemi, that her research area was French history.
Oh my.
Yeah, she's like a lady from Turku that I admire.
Okay. Sadly, I'm really bad at Swedish. I will not follow her. Elina.
I thought about Virpi Lumma. She's a professor in the Department of Biology. So kind of the same as Katariina had, but Virpi is my professor, or I know her. I did my master's in her group, and she's really cool as a person and as a researcher, because she has achieved very much, and she's still quite young. And I think she has cleared the path to many women in science, or I'm quite sure about that. And it's just really inspiring to see that someone can really achieve a lot. Yeah, and her studies are also really interesting.
Do you have the theme of her studies in general?
Well, she studies humans and Asian elephants, and the evolution around humans and Asian elephants, and especially about females. For example, why do females have menopause, or some species, why do they have menopause? Kind of like biologically, there's not so much logic in living if you can reproduce. So Virpi Lumma is studying the reasons why some female species, or some females in some species, live even if they don't reproduce, for example, humans. And she has come up with this grandma hypothesis that, for example, in human species, grandmothers help a lot their children and children's children to survive, and that's why they live to old age.
Okay. Okay, cool. It's crazy because since I'm studying in literature field, we never hear about what is done in the biology or economics field, this kind of, so it's always nice to hear about that. Faeze.
The Turkulainen person that I admire a lot is Hanna Meretoja. She's the head of our unit, and she's just like the others mentioned. She's super young and so prolific, and other than the academic career that she has, she also is a fiction writer, and she's an established writer, and I admire it that she does that, because like basically anyone can just stick to the academia and let go of like the creation, the world of creation, but she does that, and I like it a lot. And she specializes in trauma studies, and she's a kind and nice person, and she has accomplished a lot in a very short period of time. And yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And again, big connection because so for you, what is admirable, it's every time these are women who did something for the education and encourage young women to also go to university to discover things, etc. Okay. Yeah, I'm surprised. I was not expecting it. I was expecting like singers or local artists, but okay, cool researcher.
There are not that many singers in Turku.
But then we're all just nerds.
Also true.
No, it's also interesting because in France there was a big debate recently about how can you name 5 female researchers. And it's so hard because except Marie Curie, no one knows anyone. So now we have some names, at least for the listeners. You can quote these 3 names. Okay, we will move on to the question. And I ask you something pretty general to start. But at the same time, it's pretty intimate also. I wanted to ask you, when and why did you consider yourself a woman for the first time? I personally realized it when I went through puberty, I think, because people told me, no, you are a woman. It's like the deadline. But I didn't feel so much like it. I felt that people were putting me in that category more. And I experienced becoming a woman, I think, when I accepted my femininity. Because for a long time, so you didn't know me back then, but I had really short blue hair. For some years, I was dressing in a really boyish way because I guess I was protecting also myself, and it really took me time to embrace my feminine side because I was so scared of appearing weak, because it was really associated in my head, and so I was a bit curious about your own way to go through this woman side of your life. Faeze, can you start?
Yeah, I think my story is so similar to yours. Like the things that you just mentioned reminded me of so many memories. I feel the same, like at the same time that being a woman made me feel like being, for example, soft or beautiful or those types of connotations. It also had this idea of limitation and not being able to do the things that I wanted to from a certain age because I was considered like a woman, like even if I was like, for example, 10. So the first time that I realized I was a woman, it was the first time that I had period. And I was so young, and it was like I was almost around 10, and I thought that it's too early to have period, but
No.
and I was so shy, and I wanted to hide it from everyone else. So it was that, and also as you just mentioned, the puberty and the changes, the physical changes that you go through, and not wanting to accept them and being so shy and hiding your breasts and hiding your, all those types of things, and gradually realizing that there's no other way. This is the body that you have, and then it is beautiful in its form, and and accepting it, and wearing dresses and going through that tomboyish phase, and but then I think it's a little bit sad to think of being as a woman just with like the limitations the cultural limitations that are attached to it, because it is also beautiful, and I just wish that if one day I have a daughter, then this changes and it shouldn't be attached to any sort of like pain or like restriction.
Elina, do you have something to add?
Yeah. First of all, it's really sad that we all share, or I don't know about Katariina yet, but that we share the experience of femininity, or our first experience of femininity being linked to weakness and limitations, because that's also the case for me. I actually divided this question to two parts, and the first part is when I first understood that I'm a girl, and I remember as a girl, I was maybe 8 years old, and I really liked ice hockey, as almost every girl in Finland, or every child in Finland, or every person. and I asked my mom if I can go and try it out to train ice hockey, and she said, no, it's for boys. You can't do that. And that's the first time that I understood that girls and boys are separated, and there's separate things that boys and girls can do. And then when I understood that I'm a woman, I think that was also in teenage years when I went through puberty and my body changed. When I was walking outside, I saw that men are watching me. And then I understood that, okay, now I'm a woman and I'm an object of
My God, in Finland, for it's so shocking. I feel so protected in Finland. I didn't think Finnish women would feel that way also.
Okay, but here you have to know my background. I've always also lived in Russia, so I have a mixed experience. But I would say it's quite the same anyway. But to end on a positive note, I would also say that in a positive way I understood I'm a woman, or it was nice to know, or like I understood that, wow, it's nice to be a woman, it's really great to be. And actually related to that, I think it's also linked to me growing in Russia, because their femininity seemed quite in a different way than in Finland.
Okay.
There it's seen very powerful. So it's seen like not as weakness, but as powerful to have beautiful nails, a dress, makeup, being really feminine. So I'm not saying that's not without any problems, but I think that helped me growing up to come to be okay with my own body and being a woman.
It's funny because of the Russian couples that I know in Turku, the woman is always so authoritarian. And I was surprised. I was like, wow, Russian women, they are not joking. Okay. Katariina.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to agree that there is this, I don't know, sense of weakness present in my story as well. So there are few linkages to your stories as well, but I think I was around 6 or 7 years old. We have a summer cottage in the eastern Finland, and I used to be there a lot during summertime. The cottage is mainly, well, it was built by my grandparents and my parents, and well, my father and his brothers have spent a lot of time there. So it means that in the summertime I was there with my cousins and my brother, and I have almost only boy cousins, and I am the youngest.
Bully time.
Exactly. That's the thing. My cousins and my brother, they teased me, and they didn't want to play with me. And to be honest, I'm not sure, is it about because I was the youngest, or was it because I was a girl? But I remember that was the first time that I realized that I'm a girl, and they don't want to play with me.
Aww.
Okay, they were doing this boys thing, a lot of boy stuff. But for example, they were shooting with this air rifle. And I was like...
Epic childhood.
Yeah, and they didn't want to do that with me. And I got so mad. And I went to tell that to my grandma. And she was like, no, boys, you can't do that. You have to play with Katariina.
But you can't shoot with the rifle.
Okay, this was the 90s, so I don't think that this would be okay today. But she was like, you have to teach Katariina as well.
Okay,
So the boys-
everyone gets the right to shoot in this house.
Point to your grandma.
Exactly. So, yeah. So the boys then taught me how to shoot with the rifle. I don't know how to do that anymore. But yeah, I think that was the first time when I realized that I'm different compared to the boys. But on the other hand, I think I have a similar experience with Elina, that during the puberty and so on, I also liked to grow up as a woman. So I think that was also really beautiful and nice thing. But there is this element of bitter sweetness as well.
It's crazy that the grandma has confirmed the theory of your teacher. She was here for a reason. Okay. Now, since we are two foreigners, and actually it's interesting since you have also this Russian background, I would like to ask you one great thing about the status of women in Finland and one thing that should be worked on. Maybe Faeze, you have an idea about this?
Okay, one great thing about the women in Finland, I think it's more like a story from my perspective. So the first time that we were talking about it like a couple of days ago, the first time that I arrived in Finland, it was of course with Finnair, and it was the first time that I was seeing a female captain, and I was really happy, like
Land of the future.
I felt like, oh, this is really happening. So this country does not belong to only men, and that's not the type of country in which like men have all the power, etc. So I was so happy, and when we got out of the airplane and we entered the airport, I saw, for example, it was the first time these things were new to me, like to see female security guards, and like then also at the university to see women being the heads of units and departments and the heads of the universities, and having all different types of in all different types of steps in the hierarchy, and having all different kinds of power. So I was really happy to be able to be living in a country that offers women. Actually, maybe it hasn't offered. Women have taken it. But that's the way it should be, to take your own power. But anyway, of course, Finland is one of the best in the world. Maybe it's not a paradise, but it always comes to the level of comparison. Like if you what kind of countries you have been before, what things you have seen before. So when I compare it with like so many other countries and the countries that I have experienced so far, I feel like this is a good place to be for a woman.
And what is the downside? What would you try to make better in Finland?
Oh, right. So, okay, so the downside is not just about Finland, but also about Europe and the European policies in general. I think the women's question and women's issue cannot be dealt with separately from the topics of, for example, race and ethnicity. It sounds so simplistic, but we are living on the same globe. And even if we say, for example, the third world or the second world or all these types of terms, still we are living in the same globe, and the things that we do to each other always returns to us in one way or another. And the thing is that it's becoming so popular in Europe nowadays to see women in the front line of governments that are right-wing in the policies and do promote racist agenda and policies, but have this facade of women being on the front line.
Hello, Georgia Meloni.
Yeah, and then in effect not being inclusive, even though like you see, for example, traces, you see some sort of facades like as in advertisements or things like that in different parts of that country, promoting like different ethnicities or, for example, different religions or these types of things, but that doesn't come to the level of practicality. So as a foreign woman, I've been so lucky to have a job, and I still do have a job, and I'm so happy because of that. But you never know what the future brings. And when I hear from my friends who are not working within the academia and the treatments that they receive, female women in Finland, who are, to be specific, not from Europe or North American countries, the treatment that they receive is so, not necessarily all the time, but can be so problematic, and they have all different types of mental and emotional and issues living in Finland because of that, because they feel not included. And it's as if there is to go back to the examples that we were having, like when we realized that we were women and we all had like the games and the plays and these types of things that we had as teenagers. It's as if you feel like there is a game being played, like hockey or football or whatever, and you are not included in that game. And you are just in the corner and you are seeing other people playing the game. So it can be so difficult. And I think that's the thing that Finland should work on, to include minorities, and not just European minorities, but also other people from different backgrounds, and to accept that Finland is good, Finland is great, we love Finland, but it's not paradise yet, and things should be worked. It shouldn't be just suffice to the level of advertisements and the agendas and
Not just appearance.
Just the appearance and the facade, and not the real thing. And in general, I think the more people get out of Europe and visit other countries, the more they realize that other people also exist. and they are living their own lives, and they have their own cultures and heritage and stories, literature, like whatever. They are just as much human beings as we are. It's very important. So you cannot be a seasoned person just by going to, like, for example, Southern Europe and probably maybe Canada. That doesn't
that doesn't count.
that doesn't, yeah, I mean, it counts, but I've been hearing so many good comments from women of color or women of immigration backgrounds. So many good comments, of course, that they are able to do what they want to. They are offered equality and these types of things. But I've also heard that to some extent, some of them feel like others do not treat them as if they are equal. I mean, in terms of
that they don't get the same
capacity,
opportunities, or
other than that, the capacity to think. It's as if they tell you that they feel like others do not think of us as we are capable of thinking. thinking and like being critical and like writing or to be on the same level, intelligent and like capable. This is the 21st century, and it's like
It's time to stop measuring the side of the head. Or
I mean, we all have the same brain.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Actually, I was just thinking about your comments of meeting new people to realize that we are not so different. I was just thinking of our sport club, because we are not so many foreigners. So Katariina, Elina, and I, we do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And when I came to the club, there were really few foreigners, and I really felt welcomed as a non-Finnish speaker, included because people were translating the instructions to me, etc. So people did a lot of effort to make me participate. And recently we had a few newcomers from Russia and Ukraine, and I was really happy to see that some people were helping them. But sometimes I also saw that it happened at one course, there is one guy who doesn't speak English really well, and he stays alone during the entire course because no one wants to pair with him. And I really think that Finnish people, sometimes it's not that they don't want to include you, it's because they are shy. And if they cannot speak to you, sometimes they are too shy to us. So I was after pushing a bit like, hey guys, you can do a group of 3, like include him. But I remember that day where this guy was alone and no one paired with him. And I was thinking I need to ask someone because he's way heavier than me. I cannot fight with him. And he left the course because he was alone and no one wanted to pair with him. And I promised myself next time I see something like this, I need to ask people to include him. And the following time he was again alone, and I asked the teacher, can you pair with him or something? Yeah, because really I felt so bad, and I felt I had the opportunity to make this person included as I was included, and I didn't do it, and I let him alone. He felt so alone that he left the course, and this it's one of the biggest disappointment in this year. Really, that day I felt so bad. I didn't give the chance to someone else to feel included. So now I promised myself I will never let this happen again. I was just thinking about the small example, but I really think that this is the kind of occasions where you can really help someone and make their day better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and definitely Finnish people can be quite difficult noticing when someone is kind of like left out and shy to approach and to include, because Finnish people might think that they don't want to insult the other person by
stepping in.
Yeah, stepping in, which is kind of weird.
It is, but that's in our culture as well.
Why?
That's why it's very important to hear the comments and hear how it feels like. And I think the metaphor about when we talked that we were not included in some games because we are girls, and that you said that some immigrant women feel like that in Finland, that they're kind of like not included in a game. I think it's a really good metaphor to understand how it feels like, maybe that they're part of the society but not entirely as maybe we locals are.
But Elina, can you give your own view on this one great thing about Finnish women's status here and one bad?
Yeah, well, good is the fact that because Finland has been a poor country like 100 years ago, and very strongly an agricultural country. And after, or like during that, we had a civil war, and then we were in the Second World War. So we come from really like rough and a poor background. But I think that is one reason why women got such a strong position from the beginning into society, because we didn't have this strong elitist social class structure, but because women like in agriculture, women do work, women are there. So straight from the beginning, women got right to vote, for example, and that way women were part of building the society, and we got, for example, the daycare, women were in academia, in work, so that's why inequality matters. I think we're in quite ahead of many other countries, and that you can really see here. Like as you said, you see the female captain and female guards or
So
anything
called
like that.
impossible in France. I've never seen like girls working, for example, in building construction site.
And that's something that you don't really realize if you live your whole life in Finland. You don't pay attention that that's something that could be weird or surprising for another people. But yeah, about like a bad side, we still have a lot to do. Inequality, just like you said, that especially with women of or people of color, women who are not white, who come from different backgrounds. That definitely, and also just as a local, I know that there's still a lot of basic stuff that women still do a lot more work than men at home, a lot of meta work, and to achieve anything we need to see much more effort, also to be heard or taken seriously. So even though women are quite equal here in Finland, I think we are still treated as second-class citizen to an extent, and I can only imagine how it feels to be a woman of color here, because then you are treated as a third-class citizen, I guess.
Oh my god, the hierarchy.
I didn't expect to hear this, that you feel like women are still second-class citizens in Finland.
Yeah, for me also, I feel you are equal. Like I arrived here, I was like, equality has been achieved.
I feel the same.
But maybe that's why also I wanted Finnish participants, because you get the insight. When do you feel that you are not equal to men, for example?
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, this is a very small example. Very
but
small.
it's just.
But for example, if we're with friends at a summer cottage, and the day comes when you have to, or before the summer cottage, who plans what we eat?
The mama.
Yes. Who goes to get the stuff? Usually it's the females in the group. When we're at the summer cottage, who cleans up?
The ladies.
The ladies. Who is the leader who says, okay, now we have to do this. Can you do this? And it's not that the boys don't do it at home. Boys here live alone without their mothers or fathers. They can do it all by themselves. But I think that where there is a female in the group, they just automatically put the responsibility.
Yeah, they are like the project leaders of household.
Exactly, yeah. Or, for example, when we talk about payment, like salary stuff, my male friends are really brave. They're really like, yeah, of course I ask more money. I don't do this. I won't do this work without money. If I don't get paid, or if I don't get paid enough, I won't do this. But we girls, or the girls I know in our friend group, we are much more shy. We're like, I'm just happy to get a job.
How dare I?
I don't dare to ask more. Or, of course, I will do this thing for free because it will help me in my future career. So
You think more security.
yeah. So
Yeah, this I guess it's in a lot of culture also that you have been taught also to be more daring as a guy, and like the hockey example is striking because it's really you can take the risk of falling, etc., and become good, and the girl, oh, no, you're too fragile.
yeah.
Katariina, do you have one good one?
Thank you. Yeah, I relate with both of your points as well. I think you are absolutely right. What I would like to add that I think that we have a sort of double standards here in Finland, that in general the society is very, very equal, as you both or all three you have noticed it. And I think that when we think about the society or the Finland as society, yes, we women, we can do everything. We can be the captains. We are not discriminated in schools or in our hobbies or something like that. For example, I am an engineer. That is also quite boys thing. But no one has ever doubted the thing that can you be an engineer as a woman. So I think that has been really, really nice. And during my study times, there were never any discrimination against us girls. Of course, that is only my opinion, my experience. But nevertheless, I think that represents something too. And I think that in a sense we are on the same line with men when we are in the society, but when we close our private doors at home, the thing
Change.
yeah, it changes. There is this thing that Elina said about this meta work. That's one thing, and I would say that almost every woman in Finland experiences that. But also, what is quite drastical is that the violence against women in Finland is really high. I think we are the second worst country in the EU when discussing about the violence that women experience.
I have
see that.
something to add here because I got this big discussion with some friends because compared to France, for example, where I was considering it's way higher. And one explanation might be that Finnish women go to the police. Whereas in France, most of the time, it's almost 90% of cases that are dropped. So you know that if you go to the police, most likely nothing will happen and your husband or your partner will be just even angrier. Yeah, exactly. So most of the time they don't go to the police. But I was wondering, is it this the main reason that explains why the number is so high? But in any case, it's crazy to think that it is.
I have wondered the same thing also, that is there some sort of difference between the reporting rates in different countries. But despite that,
It's still impressive.
There is still something weird going on. And okay, this is again my personal opinion, but I think that there might be something with our alcohol consumption that sometimes when Finnish men take too much alcohol, they get this raging phase and going on, and then they can be really violent towards women, and that's of course a big problem here in Finland.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think as foreigners we almost never hear about this. I guess it's...
I had no idea.
Yeah. Do you think that it's discussed in the news, or is it more...
Not enough.
Okay.
But when you see news, you often see that a woman was beaten to death, or a woman was murdered, or there happens these really tragic things, or even some sort of murders where a husband has killed the entire family.
Oh my God.
They are there, but I think that the Finnish society doesn't want to raise it as a societal problem rather than just the single incidents.
And also it's just so easy to people, to society, to say that, well, come on, Finnish ladies, you've got it so much easier than women elsewhere. Don't complain. The discussion is over because everything else is so much easier for us. And that's why it isn't taken maybe so seriously, but it's definitely a problem.
It's just a coincidence, but I was listening to the French radio this morning, and today it's the 20th anniversary of the death of a famous French actress that is called Marie Trintignant. And it's still a debate nowadays in France because she has been beaten up to death by her husband, that is a singer. And this man went to prison. So he went to prison for, I think, 8 years, something like this. And he's out since a few years. And he's starting to do music again. And a lot of people are contesting his career and saying, oh, we cannot go to the concert of a man who beat up his wife. And it was interesting because the radio was comparing articles from 20 years ago where they qualified this murder as, oh, it was just an argument that went a bit too far. Nowadays it's called a feminicide.
Exactly.
And it's interesting that the term is still not in the law in France. So it's a debate that we still have nowadays. Can we qualify a murder from male to his partner or lover feminicide? So it's still a big question, I think, even in Europe.
Yeah, definitely.
But moving on from this dark topic, I have a specific question for each of you since you have different background. And I would like to start with Elina. Do you have an advice for girls who hesitate to study sciences or do research?
Yeah, well, I would just say plainly and simply that just do it. Just come, join.
I want to put the meme.
Yeah, don't hesitate. For example, why I like sciences is because it's about science. It's like 2 + 2 is 4, and you have to prove it. Or you study white rains, or like you study.
White rains. What is this?
like,
yes, not.
or you study, how stars are born. So there's no matters of, for example, like equality in the like stuff related to humans and culture, because it's science, and I like that part. And also from my experience, academia is, at least in Finland, has been quite equal. I haven't felt in my university like I've been mistreated or treated differently because I'm a girl or a woman. And yes, of course there are some difficulties in academia, like just in every sphere. But I would encourage everyone who is interested in sciences and in academia to join, because science can only grow and develop when we have people from different backgrounds who kind of view things from a different perspective. In order for the science to develop, we need also other people, European or white males. We need them too, but we need also a lot more people from other backgrounds, whoever and from wherever.
Okay, study in Finland.
Yeah.
Study in Turku.
Yeah, for example.
Faeze, would you give an advice to international women who are moving to Turku or who are already living here?
Yeah, of course. I think Turku is a very good place. The archipelago is amazing. Like the historical background of Turku is just so fabulous. And the advice that I can give is to stay focused so much on the Finnish language and learn as much as you can, because I've been also struggling with learning the language, and it has been good, and I have gone to some extent, but I need to stay way more focused on it. But other than that, like to come to Finland for the academia, I absolutely encourage this. But I think if someone comes for the field of humanities, I always love that person to also keep those threads connected to like the creation world, and like to be able to do something other than like also the academia, whatever it can be. Like it can be like playing music, or to writing, or to painting, or whatever, doing something other than the academia. And
Yeah, Finnish language, I relate. And actually, fun fact, we met in Finnish language course. Yeah, go to study Finnish and Swedish actually, because this is how I met a lot of my friends, I think.
Yeah. So you think, do you think that you need to learn Finnish to become more like part of the society?
Really.
Okay.
I feel there is a big gap between the foreigners who are speaking Finnish and the ones that don't. You're missing so much.
Yeah.
Okay.
And last question. I was really interested to ask you, Katariina, because you are a young mom. And do you have advice for young mother, or I don't know, mothers who are in Turku in general? Do you have recommendations or?
Youngish mother. Well, yeah. I haven't mentioned that I have an 8-month-old boy at home.
Congratulations.
Right so this means that I juggle between my personal life, my family life, my professional life, and my hobbies and everything like that. And
podcast sessions.
my personal life. But what is nice that in Finland that is possible. So I like that Turku and Finland in general enables that. You know, We have a quite long maternity leave, about 10 months.
Crazy.
Yeah, but it is self-evident that we have that, so we don't have to be afraid of our professional careers, because we can just have our baby, stay home for quite a long while, and then go back to work, and you don't have to worry about that. Do you have work after that, or do you have to stay at home with the baby because the society arranges the childcare and things like that for you? So it's a really great thing. Yeah. Probably my point was that even I have been too scared of having kids. And my advice would be that if you have any wishes to have kids, don't be afraid. The society will catch you. And what is more, that typically Finnish men and other spouses are very, very equal with you ladies, and they also carry the weight of having a baby, so they are really with you, and you can leave your kid to your husband, boyfriend, or significant other. So it really is quite easy to have children in Finland, so I encourage you to do that if you would like to do that. Don't be afraid.
I love that in our sports club we are like 3 couples who are training jiu-jitsu and who are bringing now the babies. It's so cool to have the babies on the tatami while we are training, and I love to see that the men are so careful, because I saw that it's not so often the woman who is going to check when the baby is crying. It's really often the men, and I love it. I love that Finnish dads are so present in the life of their kids. It's something I don't see in France. It's quite rare because the mom is staying home. It's not the dad, especially when the kid is a baby who is spending so much time. And I think it's so important to develop a relationship, and then that you want to spend time with your kids and that you will help the mom at home, etc. Do you feel that in Finland men are sharing more the house chores? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that they do. I still say that we have the main responsibility to organize how the family does the work, but men do those chores. They are willing to vacuuming the house and, taking care of the kids and doing the dishes. So that is really, really
It's
nice.
a dreamland. With Faeze,
That's still a lot to do.
yeah, because for me it's really incredible. When I arrived in Finland, and I was like, wow, men are so respectful of women, and they do so much with their children. The only thing I really struggled with was interaction. It's so hard for me to speak with Finnish men. Like, even in our sport club, it's been years I'm training. One day we are super nice, we have a long conversation. The next day they completely ignore me. And I don't get it every time. Did I do something wrong? Then I was okay, it's Finnish men.
Yes.
Yeah,
Is it the same for Finnish women, or do you feel it's easier, the interactions?
Well, I would say that it's not. I was just saying that it's not just because you're foreign. I would say, yeah, I would just say that it's just Finnish men are quite emotionally closed and not very expressive. I think it's something to do with our history and some trauma that is going from father to son. Yeah, I think, for example, when I was talking that sometimes I feel like a second-class citizen, I think that's one example that I feel that even if I'm equal to, for example, guys at our sports club, but I still think that there's a gap how men receive or view women. Like, we can talk with them one day and we're kind of like friends, but the next day they are really awkward and don't say hi.
Yeah, I don't understand this.
Yeah, but
So
when
weird.
but when men interact with each other, they don't even know each other, but they're like, hey, how is it going? So there's this still a small.
Yeah, now I really interpret it as being shy.
I think that many of the Finnish men, they are a bit afraid of women, so to speak. And they are, in a sense, putting women on a podium that they,
Inaccessible, too complicated.
Yeah, exactly. And they are a bit too shy. And maybe that added to the fact that maybe we don't have the history of, flirting with women that much, and our I don't know, love language is more about doing nice things
Okay.
to women, like, you know,
Being a gentleman or?
Building a house.
yeah, building a house.
I build you a monkey.
Exactly. Or I shoveled the snow from your next to your car. Things like that.
So hot.
A very practical love language. So I think that is an addition to that.
But anyway, we are going towards the end of this episode. Do you have some recommendations? I would say come train jiu-jitsu.
Oh,
It's a great sport. You have to do the Brazilian jiu-jitsu advertisement because I never have occasion to talk about it.
It's good for girls also.
Yeah, for me it was a great discovery because before I was doing boxing and I stopped because I was scared of hurting myself. Because when you're fighting in boxing, you can break your nose so easily, these kind of things. And in jiu-jitsu, I love that you can tap at any moment. It's a wrestling sport, and when you tap on the floor, you abandon the match. You say, okay, the other won. And it can be just you are in a position that you feel, oh, I'm hurting a bit, so let's stop. I don't want to injure myself. And it's so hard at the beginning to tap because you need to abandon a bit of your ego with it. But for me, it has been a great way also to be in close contact, physical contact with men. I really struggle to be in the same room as an older man who is stronger than me. I'm always feeling insecure and hanging around Finnish men who were careful with me, not to crush me, etc. It really helped me in my relationships with men. And to also desexualize the body. In Finland, I love this, that you have the sauna, and at the gym where we train, you go to the sauna naked, it's separated men, women. I had never done this in my life before. It's one thing that really helped me accepting myself as a woman also, because then my body was normal, was acceptable in public, and it really helped me to accept how I was, etc. So for me, jiu-jitsu was a big part of feeling myself strong, but also it was important also to learn my own weaknesses and to accept them. I had at some point to accept, okay, this part, okay, I might not be as strong, but does it matter? Don't we live in a society that is educated?
Exactly.
So do you have suggestions? Faeze, maybe.
Actually, I do, but my husband is going to play in Sibelius Museum, like I think this week probably. There's going to be some sort of an event there. Great, so Ramtin Kaibovzadeh, and he's going to DJ there and play his own music too. Yeah.
Okay.
Ramtin, who is often playing in Turku and in Tampere.
Yeah, and in Tuomo's events.
We will add him.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds
That would
very
be great.
cool.
Yeah, thank you.
I was just thinking also that Faeze, last weekend you went to Cosmos Festival.
Yeah.
And you tell us a few words about it because I didn't know it before you.
Okay, so I don't know if you have been there in Cosmos Festival before or not.
Only heard.
But the event, the thing about the event is that is great, is that they've got like they can satisfy all different types of tastes in music. So if you do not like, for example, techno or like electronic music in general, there's also gonna be like rock and metal music also being played, or chill out music for meditation and yoga. So there are different types of scenes for every taste, and that's great. And also the decoration is amazing, and there is the circus. So if you are a fan of circus like me, you can go see people doing like all different types of fire juggling. And
Where is it?
it's in Ristina. Yeah.
How many hours away from Turku?
So we didn't go directly from Turku. We went to Helsinki, and from Helsinki it was almost around like I think 2 hours and a half, something like that. But each year in July they have this festival, and the best part of it is that the people are so open. So if you want to make Finnish friends, that's the best place to be, because everybody is so chill, and yeah, they like to talk and make friends, and like of course in the camping area as well, like you befriend your neighbors.
Okay, good recommendation.
Yeah.
Sounds cool.
In general, Finnish people really love festivals.
Yeah.
So to anyone, I would really recommend joining them in summer. And if I have one tip, it's not in Turku, but to people who are interested in electronic music, there's this festival called Retriitti happening in first weekend of September. So people who are interested can check that out.
Interesting. I have never heard of it. Okay, I will
Retriitti, yes.
Okay, but if that's it, then we will call it an end. Thank you to all of you to have participated.
Naomi.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Oh, it's a sunny day.